Hi, this is Leah D'Accadosio bringing you the Digital Marketing Bootcamp. In this video, we're going to look at choosing the right social media networks. Now, focusing on too many social media networks can equal sacrificing quality, particularly for small businesses. You just don't have the manpower to give the adequate amount of attention that a social network needs to grow. You need to be able to engage with users. You need to really focus on what's working and not working. So quite often, focusing on fewer social networks can lead to much bigger rewards. Successful social media marketing comprises of knowing your audience, knowing where they're spending their attention, and posting relevant content to put in front of them. So the best way to determine what social networks you should be focusing your attention on is to go back to your social media strategy, to observe your goals and objectives, and then to identify the best channel to meet them. Now, to look at this a little bit further, we're going to look at channel objectives. Now, you might think LinkedIn is perfect for networking, for organizing events, and for repurposing content on LinkedIn polls. Google Plus, you might simply use for link building. You might just post articles in there to get the link back to your website. Twitter, you might only use for PR and journalist contacts. If you've created a survey, if you've done something that they'll be interested in, it's a really good way of creating lists, getting in contact with them and saying, hey, look, this might make a good story for you. It's really about assigning an objective for a social media channel. For example, if one of your goals or objectives was to increase your brand, then Instagram might be a good way of doing this by providing visual content that people can follow. If you want to generate traffic, maybe you're focusing on Pinterest. Understand your goals completely, and by understanding what types of people use these social networks, you'll be able to figure out which channel best meets the needs of your goals and objectives. So to do this, we first look at our objective. We understand the channel demographics. We know the content that we need to make in order to achieve our objective. Once we've posted that out there, we analyze how that went, we document everything that happened, and we make adjustments to improve on that. Then we go back to the content stage and go again, utilizing content with the adjustments we've made. This means that we have an effective process, a workflow that we can keep in mind when we are analysing if our objectives are being met. So there are some other factors to take into account when you're choosing a social media network to use, and we will be going into individual social media networks, understanding the demographics and how best to utilise them for your business. So firstly, do what you enjoy. Are there particular websites or social media networks that you like using? If you have a good understanding of a network, then chances are you'll be able to market on it a lot more effectively. Now, stay true to your brand's message. Don't ever sacrifice your brand's message for an increase in followers or anything like that, because ultimately it will damage your brand in the long run. Always remember that social networks are relationship building tools. Now, this is an essential point to remember. You're building a network, you're building a following, you want to increase engagement, you want to make your customers happy. Always expand on what works and move away from what doesn't. This is really important, and a lot of people keep making content and keep putting social media posts that they think should be working. But if it's not working, there's no point in doing that. What might work for others might not necessarily work for you, and it's important to keep that in mind. You need to focus on what works for you. Stick with that and see can you improve it. By using the workflow and the process that we had listed before, you will be able to constantly create content, see what's working, make your adjustments, and grow and improve. So always keep in mind that some networks may be declining while others are emerging. Now, this is important to keep in mind as well. There has been a lot of talk recently about Twitter and how it might be starting to decline. Now, it's important to keep this in mind, and it's important to keep in mind how this might affect the work that you're putting in to grow a big following. If something really seems to be falling, then there's no point in putting a lot of effort into that. It might be a better idea to focus on a strong social media network or one that's kind of coming into existence. Now, a very useful social media strategy is to look at social media networks that are coming on board and to try be one of the first brands that are getting involved with that. Now, this is tricky, but if you keep following influencers within this industry, you can get a good idea of where people are starting to focus their attention. For example of this, not a lot of people were taking Snapchat seriously a couple of years ago. It was very user generated. People thought it was a fad. You were just taking pictures and, putting graphics over it. What good would that do for a brand? Well, now businesses and brands are falling over themselves trying to take advantage of marketing because this is where customers have been focusing their attention. It is growing rapidly, and it doesn't matter if you don't think there's something that you can do. If people are focusing their attention somewhere on a new social network, then you need to start thinking outside of the box of how you can create content that's going to engage them. Because if that's where they're spending their time, that's where you need to be as well. So taking all this into account, you'll be able to focus on what social media networks that you should be focusing on to achieve your social media goals. Now, to help with this a little bit further, we're going to be looking at each social network individually and see how they can help your brand. They might not necessarily, it might be one to avoid, but you need to have an in-depth understanding of each social network and how they can potentially benefit your business.